Have you ever looked at an old photograph and noticed someone standing in the background? Someone nobody remembers. Someone who shouldn't be there. Now imagine finding the same person in every photograph you have ever taken. Every birthday. Every vacation. Every family gathering. Always watching. Always standing somewhere in the background. And getting closer every time. This is the story of the man who appeared in every photo. Ethan Walker never believed in ghost stories. He was a professional photographer. For over 10 years he had traveled across the country taking pictures of weddings, landscapes, and historical landmarks. Photography was his life. His passion. His career, which was why he noticed details most people missed. And one rainy evening, he noticed something that changed his life forever. It began after his grandmother's funeral. The old woman had lived to 93 years old. She passed away peacefully in her sleep. After the funeral, Ethan returned to her house to help clean out the attic. Inside he found dozens of dusty photo albums. Family photographs stretching back more than 70 years. Curious, he sat down and began looking through them. Pictures of birthdays, weddings, Christmas mornings, family reunions, memories frozen in time. Then he noticed something strange. A man standing in the background of a photograph taken in 1964. He wore a dark suit. His face looked pale, almost expressionless. At first Ethan ignored it. Until he turned the page. The same man appeared again. Different year. Different location. Same face. Same dark suit. Watching from a distance. Ethan frowned. Then turned another page. And another. And another. The man was in every photograph. Always hidden in the background. Always staring directly at the camera. His stomach tightened. Because the man never seemed to age. Not even slightly. Hours later, Ethan spread dozens of photographs across the living room floor. The evidence was impossible to ignore. The stranger appeared in photographs separated by decades. Yet he looked exactly the same. Same face. Same eyes. Same expression. Ethan called his mother. "Who is this man?" There was a long silence. Then she replied. "What man?" Ethan showed her the photographs. Her face immediately lost color. She sat down slowly. As though she had seen a ghost. "I thought your grandmother burned these." Ethan stared at her. "You know him?" His mother nodded nervously. "When I was a child I noticed him too." A chill ran through Ethan. "What happened?" His mother looked away. "Your grandmother told me never to talk about him." That night Ethan could not sleep. The photographs haunted him. At 2 a.m. he returned to the attic. He searched every box. Every drawer. Every old journal. Finally he found something hidden beneath a loose floorboard. A small envelope. Inside was a faded black and white photograph. The oldest photograph he had ever seen. Taken sometime in the early 1900s. A family stood outside a farmhouse. And there he was. The same man. Standing behind them. Watching. On the back someone had written 3 words. "He follows US." Ethan felt cold sweat forming on his forehead. Then he noticed something else. A second message. Written in different handwriting. "Don't let him see you." The next morning Ethan scanned every photograph into his computer. He enlarged the man's face. The image quality was poor. But one detail stood out. His eyes. They looked wrong. Almost completely black. Like empty holes. Ethan uploaded the image to several photography forums. He hoped someone could identify the man. Hours later, a private message arrived. The sender's name was unknown. The message contained only one sentence. Delete every photograph immediately. Ethan stared at the screen. Then another message appeared. If he knows you can see him, he will come closer. For the first time, Ethan felt genuine fear. 3 days later, he was covering a wedding in another city, trying to forget everything. The ceremony went smoothly. The photographs looked perfect until that evening. When he began editing them, Ethan froze. The man was there, standing near the church entrance, watching. His heart pounded, because this photograph had been taken only hours earlier. And unlike the older pictures, the man was no longer standing far away. He was much closer. Ethan zoomed in. His blood ran cold. The man was smiling. It was the first time he had ever seen him smile. And beneath the smile, something looked horribly wrong. His mouth stretched far wider than any human mouth should. Almost unnatural. Almost impossible. Then Ethan noticed another detail. The man wasn't looking at the camera anymore. He was looking directly at Ethan. As though he knew. As though he had always known. Ethan stared at the computer screen. His hands trembled on the keyboard. The man was smiling. And somehow that smile felt worse than anything he had seen before. He immediately opened the rest of the wedding photographs. One by one, hundreds of images filled the screen. At first everything looked normal. The bride, the guests, the church, the reception hall. Then Ethan noticed something terrifying. The man appeared in every single photograph. Not just one. Not two. Every photograph. No matter where the camera was pointed, the man was always there. Sometimes standing near a window. Sometimes hidden among the guests. Sometimes reflected in mirrors. Watching. Always watching. Ethan's heartbeat quickened. Then he discovered something even worse. The man seemed to be moving. In the first photograph, he stood near the church entrance. In the second, he was halfway across the courtyard. In the third, he was closer. And closer. And closer by the final photograph. He stood only a few feet behind Ethan, smiling directly into the camera. Ethan slammed the laptop shut. His breathing became heavy. This couldn't be real. It had to be some kind of hallucination. A prank. A computer error. Anything. But deep down he already knew the truth. The man was getting closer. That night Ethan barely slept. Every sound inside his apartment made him jump. Every shadow seemed wrong. At exactly 3:13 a.m., a notification appeared on his phone. Someone had sent him an email. The sender had no name. No address. Only a blank profile. With trembling hands, Ethan opened the message. Attached was a photograph. A recent photograph. Taken from outside his apartment building. His blood turned cold. The picture showed Ethan standing at his own bedroom window, looking outside, completely unaware he was being photographed. Beneath the image were 5 words. He knows where you live. Ethan immediately rushed to the window. The street below was empty. No cars. No pedestrians. No photographer. Nothing. Only darkness. Then he noticed something. Across the street, a figure stood beneath a streetlight. A man in a dark suit. Motionless. Watching his apartment. Watching him. Ethan stepped backward. The figure did not move. Did not blink. Did not look away. It simply stood there, smiling. The next morning Ethan drove to his grandmother's old house. He needed answers. Someone had to know the truth. Inside the attic, he searched every box again. Hours passed. Dust filled the air. Finally, he found an old journal hidden inside a wooden chest. The journal belonged to his grandfather. Most pages contained ordinary notes. Until Ethan reached an entry dated October 1978. His hands began shaking as he read. I saw him again today. The man from the photographs. He was standing outside the school watching Ethan's mother. He's getting closer. Ethan continued reading. Father told me the story before he died. His father told him before that. The man has followed our family for generations. Nobody knows who he is. Nobody knows what he wants. But everyone agrees on one thing. When he finally reaches you. The sentence stopped abruptly. The rest of the page had been torn out. Ethan searched frantically through the journal. But the missing page was gone. As evening approached, Ethan prepared to leave. Then he heard footsteps upstairs. Slow. Heavy. Deliberate. He froze. The house should have been empty. The footsteps continued. Creak. 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 Someone was walking through the hallway. Ethan grabbed a flashlight. Slowly he climbed the stairs. The sound stopped. Silence filled the house. Then he reached the hallway. And saw something lying on the floor. A photograph. Brand new. Still developing. Ethan stared at it. The image slowly became clear. His heart nearly stopped. The photograph showed the hallway. The exact hallway where he was standing. But in the picture, a dark figure stood at the far end. Smiling. And beneath the image were 3 chilling words. Turn around now. Ethan stared at the photograph. His entire body froze. The picture showed the exact hallway where he was standing. The same wallpaper. The same broken light fixture. The same old wooden floor. And at the far end stood the man. Smiling. Waiting. Beneath the image were 3 terrifying words. Turn around now. Ethan's hands trembled. Every instinct told him not to look. Not to move. Not to breathe. But curiosity won. Slowly, very slowly. He turned around. The hallway behind him was empty. For a moment relief washed over him. Then he noticed something strange. A door at the end of the corridor stood open. Ethan was certain it had been closed moments earlier. Cold air drifted from inside. The room belonged to his grandmother. Nobody had entered it since her funeral. His heart pounded as he approached. The closer he got, the colder the air became. Finally he reached the doorway. The room was dark. Silent. Empty. Or so it seemed. Then he saw another photograph lying on the bed. Fresh. As if someone had placed it there only seconds ago. Ethan picked it up. The image slowly developed. And his blood turned cold. The photograph showed him standing beside the bed. Holding the photograph. Exactly as he was now. But there was something else. Behind him. A hand rested on his shoulder. A pale hand. Long fingers. Not human. Ethan dropped the photograph and spun around. Nothing. The room was empty. Yet he could not shake the feeling that someone was standing inches behind him. Watching. Breathing. Waiting. Then a sudden noise echoed from downstairs. A loud crash. Glass shattering. Ethan rushed out of the room and ran toward the staircase. The moment he reached the living room, he stopped dead. Every family photograph hanging on the walls had fallen to the floor. The glass was shattered. Frames broken. Pictures scattered everywhere. And in every photograph, the man was gone. For the first time in over 100 years, he had disappeared from every picture. Ethan's stomach twisted. Because he knew what that meant. The man was no longer inside the photographs. He was somewhere else now. Somewhere real. A cold voice suddenly whispered from behind him. "So you finally noticed me." Ethan slowly turned around. And standing in the darkness of the hallway, for the first time in his life, was the man himself. Smiling. Ethan slowly turned around. His heart pounded so hard it felt painful. Standing at the end of the hallway was the man. The same dark suit. The same pale face. The same impossible smile. For generations he had existed only in photographs. Now he was standing in front of him. Real. Ethan could not move. Could not speak. The man tilted his head slightly. Almost as if studying him. Then he took a step forward. The floor creaked beneath his shoes. The sound snapped Ethan out of his paralysis. He turned and ran. The front door was only a few feet away. He grabbed the handle. Pulled. Nothing. The door would not open. He pulled harder. Still nothing. As if something on the other side was holding it shut. Behind him the footsteps continued. Slow. Calm. Unhurried. The man was not chasing him. Because he knew Ethan had nowhere to go. Ethan backed away from the door. His breathing became frantic. The light suddenly flickered. Once. Twice. 3 times. Then every light in the house went out. Darkness consumed everything. Only moonlight entered through the windows. And in that faint light, Ethan could still see the man. Standing perfectly still. Smiling. Then something impossible happened. The man began changing. His face shifted. Aging rapidly. Becoming younger. Then older again. Different faces appeared every second. Dozens of them. Hundreds. Men. Women. Children. All flashing across his face. Ethan realized what he was seeing. These were the people from the photographs. Every victim. Every person the man had followed. Their faces were trapped inside him. The man took another step forward. And suddenly spoke. His voice sounded like many voices speaking at once. "I have waited a long time." Ethan's blood ran cold. "What do you want?" The smile widened. "I want what I always take." The room grew colder. Frost appeared on the windows. The shadows around the man began moving. Stretching across the walls like living creatures. Ethan backed into the kitchen. Searching desperately for anything that could help. Then he noticed something lying on the counter. A photograph. Freshly developed. It had not been there before. With shaking hands he picked it up. The image showed the basement beneath the house. At the center stood an old wooden chest. Beneath the picture were 4 words. "The answer is below." Ethan stared at the photograph. Then at the man. The creature smiled again. As though it knew exactly what Ethan had seen. Without wasting another second, Ethan sprinted toward the basement door. Behind him he heard laughter. Deep. Ancient. And horribly inhuman. He slammed the basement door shut and rushed down the stairs. Darkness surrounded him. The air smelled of dust and decay. At the bottom stood the old wooden chest. Exactly like the photograph. Ethan approached carefully. His hands trembling. Slowly he opened the lid. Inside was a bundle of yellowed papers. And beneath them, a single photograph. Older than all the others. The very first photograph. The origin of everything. As Ethan picked it up, a deafening scream echoed from upstairs. The man had found him. And he was coming down. Ethan slowly turned around. His heart pounded so hard it felt painful. Standing at the end of the hallway was the man. The same dark suit. The same pale face. The same impossible smile. For generations he had existed only in photographs. Now he was standing in front of him. Real. Ethan could not move. Could not speak. The man tilted his head slightly. Almost as if studying him. Then he took a step forward. The floor creaked beneath his shoes. The sound snapped Ethan out of his paralysis. He turned and ran. The front door was only a few feet away. He grabbed the handle. Pulled. Nothing. The door would not open. He pulled harder. Still nothing. As if something on the other side was holding it shut. Behind him the footsteps continued. Slow. Calm. Unhurried. The man was not chasing him. Because he knew Ethan had nowhere to go. Ethan backed away from the door. His breathing became frantic. The lights suddenly flickered. Once. Twice. 3 times. Then every light in the house went out. Darkness consumed everything. Only moonlight entered through the windows. And in that faint light, Ethan could still see the man. Standing perfectly still. Smiling. Then something impossible happened. The man began changing. His face shifted. Aging rapidly. Becoming younger. Then older again. Different faces appeared every second. Dozens of them. Hundreds. Men. Women. Children. All flashing across his face. Ethan realized what he was seeing. These were the people from the photographs. Every victim. Every person the man had followed. Their faces were trapped inside him. The man took another step forward. And suddenly spoke. His voice sounded like many voices speaking at once. I have waited a long time. Ethan's blood ran cold. What do you want? The smile widened. I want what I always take. The room grew colder. Frost appeared on the windows. The shadows around the man began moving. Stretching across the walls like living creatures. Ethan backed into the kitchen. Searching desperately for anything that could help. Then he noticed something lying on the counter. A photograph. Freshly developed. It had not been there before. With shaking hands he picked it up. The image showed the basement beneath the house. At the center stood an old wooden chest. Beneath the picture were 4 words. The answer is below. Ethan stared at the photograph. Then at the man. The creature smiled again. As though it knew exactly what Ethan had seen. Without wasting another second, Ethan sprinted toward the basement door. Behind him he heard laughter. Deep. Ancient. And horribly inhuman. He slammed the basement door shut and rushed down the stairs. Darkness surrounded him. The air smelled of dust and decay. At the bottom stood the old wooden chest. Exactly like the photograph. Ethan approached carefully. His hands trembling. Slowly he opened the lid. Inside was a bundle of yellowed papers. And beneath them, a single photograph. Older than all the others. The very first photograph. The origin of everything. As Ethan picked it up, a deafening scream echoed from upstairs. The man had found him. And he was coming down. Ethan's hands trembled as he lifted the ancient photograph from the wooden chest. The paper felt fragile. Older than anything he had ever touched. Dust covered its edges. The image was faded, but still visible. And the moment Ethan looked at it, his blood turned cold. The photograph showed a family standing outside a farmhouse. The date beneath it read 1889. More than a century ago. Yet standing behind the family was the man. The same dark suit. The same pale face. The same impossible smile. He had not changed at all. Not even slightly. Then Ethan noticed writing on the back. Faded words written in black ink. He quickly turned the photograph over. The message read, "He was never human." A loud crash echoed from above. The basement door had burst open. The man was coming. Ethan grabbed the remaining papers from the chest. Most were old journal entries. Letters. Newspaper clippings. One article immediately caught his attention. The headline read, "Entire family vanishes without trace." Date: 1890. The family in the photograph. Gone. Every member had disappeared 1 year after the picture was taken. Another article. 1907. Another family. Gone. Then another. And another. And another. For over 100 years. The same pattern repeated. Every family connected to the photograph eventually vanished. One by one. Generation after generation. A cold realization struck Ethan. The man wasn't following the family. The family was trapped inside his hunt. A slow footstep echoed from the top of the basement stairs. Then another. Then another. Ethan looked up. The darkness at the staircase seemed alive. Something was moving within it. The man stepped into view. Smiling. His eyes completely black. For the first time, Ethan saw what the creature truly looked like. Its face was no longer stable. Faces appeared and disappeared across its skin. Hundreds of trapped faces. All staring silently. The creature took another step. "You were always meant to find me." Ethan backed away. "What are you?" The creature smiled wider. "I am the memory nobody escapes." The basement lights exploded. Glass rained from above. Darkness swallowed the room. Only the creature's black eyes remained visible. Watching. Waiting. Then Ethan noticed something inside the chest. A final photograph hidden beneath everything else. He grabbed it. The image slowly became clear. And his heart nearly stopped. The photograph showed tomorrow's date. It showed Ethan standing beside a river at sunrise. Alive. Alone. And beneath the picture were 4 words. "This is your chance." The creature suddenly roared. The sound shook the entire house. The walls cracked. The floor trembled. Ethan didn't hesitate. Clutching the photograph, he sprinted past the creature, raced up the basement stairs, and burst into the darkness above. Behind him, the man laughed. A deep, horrifying laugh. As if he already knew where Ethan was going. Ethan ran through the house as fast as he could. The floorboards cracked beneath his feet. Behind him, the creature's laughter echoed through every room. Slow. Deep. Patient. As though it already knew how this would end. Rain hammered against the windows. Thunder shook the sky. Ethan burst through the front door. This time it opened. The lock was gone. Whatever force had trapped him inside had vanished. He sprinted toward his car. His hands shook so badly he almost dropped the keys. Behind him, the front door slowly creaked open. The man stood in the doorway. Watching. Smiling. Not chasing. Just watching. Ethan jumped into the car and started the engine. The headlights illuminated the empty road. For a split second he looked back. The man was gone. The doorway stood empty, as if he had never been there. Ethan drove through the storm. The photograph lay on the passenger seat beside him. The image showed a river at sunrise. And beneath it, 4 words. "This is your chance." For hours he drove, following old roads through the countryside. The storm slowly faded. Night began to weaken. The first signs of dawn appeared on the horizon. Finally Ethan reached the river from the photograph. His heart nearly stopped. Every detail matched perfectly. The old bridge. The twisted trees. The narrow path leading to the water. Everything. Exactly the same. The photograph had shown the future. And now he was standing inside it. Ethan stepped out of the car. Cold morning air filled his lungs. For the first time in days, everything seemed peaceful. Silent. Normal. Then he noticed someone standing near the riverbank. An old man. Motionless. Waiting. As Ethan approached, the stranger slowly turned around. His face looked familiar. Painfully familiar. The old man smiled sadly. "I've been waiting for you." Ethan froze. "Who are you?" The old man reached into his coat and removed a photograph. A very old photograph. When Ethan saw it, his blood turned cold. It showed the same river. The same sunrise. And a younger version of the old man standing exactly where Ethan stood now. The date on the photograph was 70 years old. The old man's voice trembled. "I was once where you are." Ethan stared at him. "What do you mean?" The old man's eyes filled with fear. "The man followed my family too." A cold wind swept across the river. The old man continued. "I escaped him once. Only once. But nobody escapes forever." Ethan felt his stomach tighten. "What is he?" The old man slowly looked toward the water. For several seconds he remained silent. Then he whispered. "He is not hunting families. He is collecting them." The river suddenly became perfectly still. Not a single ripple remained. The birds stopped singing. The wind disappeared. Everything fell silent. The old man's face turned pale. "No." Ethan looked around. "What is it?" The old man stepped backward. Terrified. "He found you." Then something moved beneath the water. A massive dark shape. Far larger than anything possible. Slowly rising toward the surface. And for the first time, Ethan realized. The smiling man was only the beginning. The real nightmare had been waiting beneath the river all along. The surface of the river became completely still. Not a single ripple moved across the water. The old man's face turned white with fear. He took another step backward. Then another. As though he wanted to run. But knew it was already too late. Ethan stared into the dark water. The shape beneath the surface was growing larger. Rising slowly from the depths. The river suddenly began draining away. Water rushed downstream at impossible speed, exposing the muddy riverbed below. And what Ethan saw made his blood run cold. Photographs. Thousands of them. Covering the bottom of the river. Everywhere. Old photographs. New photographs. Black and white. Color. Torn. Burned. Yet all of them showed the same thing. The smiling man. Watching from the background. Waiting. The old man grabbed Ethan's arm. "We have to leave." Before they could move, a deafening crack echoed across the river. The earth trembled violently. The riverbed split open. And something enormous emerged. A giant black hand. Its fingers longer than tree trunks. Its skin appeared made of darkness itself. Another hand followed. Then a massive head slowly rose from the depths. Ethan couldn't comprehend its size. It towered above the trees. Above the bridge. Above everything. Its face constantly shifted. Thousands of faces appearing and disappearing across its skin. Every victim. Every family. Every person it had ever taken. All trapped inside. The old man fell to his knees. It's the collector. The creature opened its eyes. Hundreds of glowing eyes. All staring directly at Ethan. At once. The world fell silent. Then the smiling man appeared beside the river. As if he had always been there. His smile wider than ever. The collection is almost complete. Ethan backed away. What do you want from me? The smiling man's eyes darkened. Your family was chosen long ago. The giant creature began moving forward. Each step shaking the ground. Trees collapsed. The bridge cracked. The air itself seemed to scream. Then Ethan remembered the photograph. The one showing tomorrow's date. The one that brought him here. He pulled it from his pocket. For the first time he noticed something hidden in the image. A shadow beneath the bridge. And written beside it. 3 words. Look below you. Ethan ran toward the bridge. The collector roared. A sound so powerful it shattered every window nearby. The smiling man laughed. Certain that Ethan could not escape. But beneath the bridge. Hidden inside an old metal box. Ethan found something unexpected. A camera. Ancient. Black. The camera slowly crumbled into dust. Carried away by the wind. Its purpose fulfilled. Ethan looked down. One final photograph lay at his feet. The last photograph. The final picture ever taken. He picked it up carefully. The image showed his family. His grandmother. His grandfather. His mother. Everyone. Standing together and smiling. And for the first time in over a century. The smiling man was nowhere in the photograph. He was gone. Completely gone. On the back of the picture were 3 simple words. The hunt ended. Tears filled Ethan's eyes. The curse was finally broken. The generations of fear. The disappearances. The endless photographs. All of it was over. Or so he thought. Because years later. After Ethan had grown old. After he had children of his own. A young photographer would discover a dusty photograph inside an antique shop. A photograph showing a strange man standing in the background. Watching. Smiling. Waiting. And somewhere in the darkness. A camera shutter clicked once again. The end.